This is Stars and Scopes with your friend Uma, updated every new and full moon with guidance based on planetary transits in the current sky and extra support from tarot. For accuracy, take a look at your rising sign first if you know it, and do feel free to listen to your sun, moon and rising if you'd like the full picture. If you're interested in your birth chart, check out the readings page at umaruby.com, and if you'd like to support the work, head over to buymeacoffee.com/umaruby and you can buy me a coffee. Finally, if you're a visual learner, look up Uma Ruby Tarot on YouTube and you can watch and learn. Okay, let's take a look. Hello Pisces and Pisces rising, welcome to your horoscope for the new moon in Libra. This is happening on September the 26th, which is a Monday at 7:54 a.m. So it's a morning new moon. So if you'd like to, of course, ritualize and feel the energy of the darkness, then of course the night before on the 25th is the time to ruminate. Now, we've got a bit to discuss. I'm going to work with these tarot cards that I've drawn in the intro to further explore what might be coming up for you. But I think that there's a few points of astrological interest that we can get into first up. In addition, with this new moon, this lunation, the sun and the moon conjoined at 2 degrees of Libra, that also forms a sort of conjunction with Mercury in its retrograde movement back into Virgo. And to me, with Mercury retrogrades, it's a wonderful period to go over some of the messages or go over some of the intelligences that we've been absorbing over time. Virgo is a brilliant place, I would suspect, to encounter a Mercury retrograde. In the traditional sense, Mercury does rule Virgo in terms of Virgo's ability to open the portal to spirit world and absorb those messages and then have them find form in a practical sense. To look at a Pisces rising chart specifically, Virgo rules the 7th house of relationship and of obviously romantic bonds, also soulmate contracts and things like that. So to have the messenger come back from Libra back into Virgo for this moment, for this lunation, a night when we are going to manifest all that we can for our 8th house, which has shown up in the tarot, which can be quite pertinently and thoroughly represented by the Death card. The 8th house is all about soul contracts. The 8th house is about the way that we are psychically, physically, spiritually bound to other souls and the grief processes that can occur when these bonds are broken or when these bonds move on, and in the many different ways that we have to say goodbye to such intensity. So this new moon, I would suspect, if we look at the tarot, it is the 2 of Swords. I'm going to use my grandmother's Chinese tarot for this. I wonder if you can see that, if it's close enough. The 2 of Swords is where the lunation is happening. The sun and the moon sit at that 2 of Swords moment, which is a real moment of stillness. Rather than moving forward, rather than expression, the 2 of Swords reminds us that there are 2 truths, there are 2 perspectives, often more multiple, but in this case, the stillness that one must find in order to sit with the polarity of life. And to somehow, in beautiful Libra fashion, find that U-shape underneath those polarizing points that connects and unifies the 2 perhaps disparately feeling energies. So Mercury in Virgo, the house of relationship, traditionally the Libran house. I wonder if there are messages that can be proffered to those that you hold so dear. I wonder if there's something about the way in which you have been dealing with grief in some way, or perhaps the way that you have been feeling separate or discluded in some way from the group or from a relationship. There might be something in here, and I can see it here, articulated so beautifully. The juggle that we have with understanding an ending and grieving an ending. I think it's worth bringing up Pluto in this as well, because Mercury in its retrograde station is forming a trine with Pluto in Capricorn. For a Pisces rising, Capricorn rules the 11th house, which is the greater good, community and humanity. There's a relationship, isn't there, between that sense of belonging and the sense of partnership and the Plutonian energies that are occurring in that 11th house for many Pisceans, that ripping away or ripping apart, moving through the bonds of a community. I wonder if there's a message that can be ping-ponged from Pluto and what we've learned in that 11th house position over to Mercury in Virgo in the 7th, and manifested into a reality, into a greater understanding of balance in Libra in the 8th house for Pisces. There's a depth here. There's a real beauty and a real melancholy, I think, that I'm seeing here. The peculiarity of having Libra rule the 8th house is an interesting one, because when dealing with regeneration or rebirth or transition, to have a Libran sensibility about all of that stuff, a real wanting and hoping and hanging on to equality and justice, and being able to see the perspective of all involved, can be a trying time, and I think is showing up here with our Two of Pentacles and our Three of Swords in a melancholy dance, a melancholy balance. If I were you, Pisces, I'd really work with Mercury's energy, that retrograde station, that opportunity to reabsorb some of the messages that have been downloading in your life and messages that you've been receiving that have to do with the way that you relate to other people and your position or dissipation of position in community. I've had such a beautiful experience this week. I've had many birth chart readings booked back to back, and a recurring theme of all of them was this feeling of the energy of the hermit being really prevalent. I think that there are many folks that are feeling the distance, and perhaps that distance is between the life that existed before this reckoning, this change that is occurring in the world, this ascension in a positive light, and a longing, perhaps, or a remembrance of the times gone by. There's something about grief in the 8th, and there's something about having the power to manifest with a new moon in the 8th that is really beautiful, Pisces, and I hope that you can find the appreciation in that. I hope that you can find the beauty in that lovely Libran way. You know, traditionally Venus rules Libra. There's that equality for beauty, you know, the higher power of beauty to balance us all out. I hope that there's something in this lunation, in this new moon for you, that you can come to a place of understanding and a place of care for your grief, definitely, and for that potential feeling of being ostracized or having ostracized yourself in some way, in order to, in that hermit fashion, to open the portal and download So perhaps at this new moon, think about all of this. You don't have to express it just yet, you know. I think when Mercury stations direct, that will be a great time to collate what you've learnt through this process and through this new moon, since we experienced the vibrancy of the Pisces full moon 2 weeks ago and all of the psychic downloads perhaps that you received. I know I did for sure. So at this time, in lovely, balanced Libran fashion, I want you to manifest release. Release of loss and fear and sorrow, and come into a place of understanding of the beautiful cycles that keep playing out in our lives. There's things to say goodbye to. There's dynamics to say goodbye to once and for all at this new moon. I really believe that. In order to make way for what's to come. A beautiful friend of mine said to me, I was lamenting maybe a little bit about the isolation in some ways that I've put myself in order to learn this, in order to follow my soul's path. I believe that my soul path is a Piscean one because of my Pisces rising. And there's lots for me to learn, and there's lots for me to reconcile, and there's definitely ways of being that I can no longer exist as. And my friend said to me, the page is turning, and look at all that space around you. There's so much room to invite in the new. And I wonder who's going to fill up that 11th house. I wonder who's going to fill up that 7th house as you move forward as the person you are now. So I think that's your reading, Pisces. My hourglass has caught my eye. I didn't touch it at all. So thank you, Mercury, for letting this to be a bit free-flowing as well, rather than being so bound by a time limit. And thank you, Libra, for keeping everything in balance. And thank you, Virgo, for the reminder. I'll speak to you in 2 weeks, Pisces. It'll be the full moon in Aries, which will be a really great moment to perhaps release some of the residual energy around how you're turning your coin, earning your buck, creating abundance. If there's anything that needs to be let go of in terms of disappointment or a shortcoming in some way, then we can do that in 2 weeks. But I think really enjoy this new moon in Libra. It's a particular one, and it's a quiet one, I think. There's a real space to this lunation. If you'd like your birth chart read, I would highly recommend you head over to umaruby.com and go to the readings page. If you're wanting to learn about your rising sign and the relationship of your sun and your moon sign in order to express the highest octave of that rising sign, then I'd pick the spirit reading if I were you. It's the one that's been picked most often in the time that I've been doing this, and it's the one that holds so much self-discovery and hope as we move forward. Until then, I love you. Take care.